Hello everyone, welcome to my guide on how to create simple sign up and login functionality on a website. Today I'm also going to be showing you how to hash and salt user passwords through PHP. So first off, I'm running a test server off XAMPP, which goes through localhost, which allows me to access PHP MyAdmin as well as host PHP files for free. So I highly suggest getting XAMPP. It's really good software. Alright, so to begin with, I have two simple PHP files already created called signup1 and login1. And these are simple forms that collect a username and password, and on the submit button, send it to these two files, login and signup.php. Now I'll go and show you what the forms look like. This is it. So when you type in a username and password, it will pass those variables to the other forms that we're going to work on. So let's get started with our signup.php. To begin with, up here I have a file called mysqlconnect.php, and within that file I have this line of code. You do need to connect to your database, and I have my personal password in there, so obviously I really don't want to show you guys. So I'm going to just include that file in this, so you don't have to see my password. There's a lot of videos on YouTube and tutorials online on how to connect to your database, and it's really easy. So first, we see here that we're passing a variable name, username, and password to the signup. So in order to grab those, we're just going to create new variables. I'm going to call the first one username, and the post function is what we're sending the variable through, and it's going to make it right here post, and it's going to make it not visible in the URL. So to grab it, we type in post, and we want to grab the variable username, and here we're just going to do pass. Let's post here. We're going to grab password. So this grabs those two variables that were sent through the form. Alright, now we're going to create our SQL statement to insert this user into the database by creating a new signup. So I'm just going to name this new variable SQL, and our SQL statement is we're going to be inserting into, now with your database you can name it whatever you want. Here I have named my database users, and the only two variables that are being, or the only two columns in this database are username and password. So that's what we're going to work with. So we're going to insert into what we call our table users. We have a username and a pass, and we're going to pass through the values of username and pass. Cool. So this statement is taking these two variables and it's putting them into our database under username and password. Pretty simple. Now we're going to call the result. We're going to actually execute this by naming a variable result, and I'll tell you why we do this later. So now we're going to actually call on MySQL. So we're going to give it the first parameter, which is the connection, which is our username password. It's going to tell it what database and what table to perform the query on. And then we're going to give it our statement. Cool. And that is it. Seems simple enough. So let's go back to here, and I'm just going to name the username test and the password 123. Sign up. Didn't get any errors, and I'm going to refresh the table, and voila, it worked. Cool. So now we are going to go to the login form. Same thing. So now we have to add some code in order to log in to this user. So again, I'm going to include my other form here, which contains, again, this connection. So we're going to connect to the database, and the same exact thing here. We're passing a post method of our username and and password variables. So we have username equals underscore post. It's going to be the same exact method in order to attain these variables. Cool. So again, we're going to do pretty much the same thing, and we're going to create a SQL statement. This one's going to be a little bit different. So here, when we want to log in, we're going to be selecting data from the database under a where condition, and that where condition is specific to the user. So first, we're going to select everything from users. Now we have this where condition. So in order to log in, you're going to want the username to equal the username in the database, and you're going to want the password to equal the password in the database. So from this, when we create our result variable and run it with our connection and our SQL statement, we are going to get one result when we test our username, because there's only one user named Test, and he has one password of 123. And in order to kind of check this, we're going to create an if statement. So we're going to say if not row, and row is a new variable that we're naming, and we're going to make it equal to MySQLi fetch association. And inside the parentheses, we're going to be fetching the result of our query. So this right here is pretty much saying we got results from this query. And this right here is saying if not row, so if we didn't get any results from the query. So this is if it failed, if the username and password did not match. So what we're going to do is we're just going to echo a simple command of username and password incorrect. And then we're going to throw an else, and this is if it did work. We're going to echo username and password correct, logged in, something simple. All right, so I'm going to save this, and we are going to test. Put this semicolon here. Everything looks okay. All right, so now we know username is test, password is 123. So we're going to log in test, password 123. Correct. Cool. So let's see if we enter a different password. I'm going to do 1234. We see that the username and password are incorrect. Okay, so that's really simple, but let's go back to signup.php. That was really simple and easy, but what happens when a hacker comes in and hacks our entire list, and lo and behold, we have an easy list of username and passwords for this hacker to just easily try. And that's where password hashing comes in. If you don't know what password hashing is, it's kind of like one-way encryption where every password is hashed with an algorithm, and it creates a completely unique set of characters for that password. I'll show you a few examples, but first I'll just show you how to do it in PHP. It's pretty simple. In order to do this, we're going to have to start with a signup, and this is where we're going to actually hash these passwords. Now, PHP makes it really easy for us. They have a lot of built-in functionality for not too much for password hashing, but they do have built-in functionality that's pretty solid. So what we're going to do is create a new variable called hashed pass, and we're going to use the built-in functionality from PHP, and it's called password hash. And the first parameter is just going to be the password, And the second is going to be the type of hash. And what I would recommend is password default. And that's what PHP also recommends. And with the password default, it's going to completely hash your password and it's going to salt it for you. So what salting is a really good way to protect against brute force attacks on databases. So if we go back here, if a hacker, guesses 123 with your hash, he'll be able to easily compare the two hashes and figure out your password. Now, what a salt is it's a unique character for each username that is added to the password. So let's say for this test username, we have a salt of ABCD. So what that would do is it would add it to the end of the password. So it would be 123 ABCD and then it would be hashed. So this is a lot harder to brute force because every username has its own unique hash. The cool thing about PHP is this right here completely hashes and salts for us. So now I'm going to save this and make sure that everything's good. Here we want to pass our hashed pass. Alright, so it looks good. So let's go back to here and we're going to make, let's do test. We're going to make the password 123 again. What's that? I spelled hashed wrong. Nice. Alright, we're going to go back here and 123. Let's see if it did it. Alright, let's check. Alright, so we can see now this is the new password. So it's impossible to go from this password back to the original password that we had. That's what hashing does. It's not encrypting because encryption can be decrypted back to the original state. This password cannot be decrypted, which is really, unfortunate if you're a hacker and trying to get into a database. I'm going to create one more account, test one, and the password is just going to be 123. Alright, and this is just for testing purposes. Okay, so here's our new hash. As you can see, it's almost impossible to guess, obviously, and we have a now salted and hashed password. So in order to do the login, we're going to have to change a few things, because obviously 123 doesn't equal that really long number, so that's not going to work anymore. Now, PHP has a really cool built-in function called password verify, and that's what we're going to be using here. So we're going to keep all of this the same. Actually, we're going to be changing this right here. So what we're going to want to do is select everything from our user where the username equals this. Alright, so what this does is it's going to return, this result right here is going to return an array of username and password, because when we call on it, we have username and password. So this result is going to return the username and password for every user. So when we type in test1, it'll return everything. And what we really want is to pull the data from this result, but we're only interested in the password. So again, we're going to use this same function. So data is going to be an array of two variables, username and password, and what we want is the real password. So this is going to give us the hashed password. Alright, and from that, data is an array, and we just want the pass from it. So this is going to return the completely hashed and salted password from this user that we ask. Alright, now here is where we're going to actually test the two passwords. So the password that the user enter, let's say it's 123, it's not going to be the same as the completely long hashed password, but we have a really cool built-in function with PHP called password verify. And this is going to take two parameters. It's going to take the user entered password, and then it's going to take the hashed password. And what this is going to do is it's going to run through and test. It's going to hash the user password and compare it with the hashed password, and that is going to be including salts. Alright, looks like we're good. I think we got everything under control. So we have test1 and the password is 123. So now we're going to go to our login and we're going to try test1, 1, 2, 3. Nice, it worked. So that's the simplest way to hash and salt user passwords using the built-in PHP functionality, which actually works really well. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something.